Seen his picture. Looks like it's him over there.
Yeah, that's what we'll have it. You ready? All right, we'll start with roll call. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry that we're running a tad late. There's a lot of amendments that we went through, and we just wanted to make sure we had those straight so the meeting went a little bit more efficient, I guess you would say. So we can begin. Let's start with the roll call.
Senator Butler. Here. Senator Carnley. Senator Chastain. Here. Senator Coleman. Here. Senator Figures. Senator Gavan.
Here.
Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey.
Here.
Senator Kelly. Senator Melson. Here. Senator Roberts. Senator Sessions. Here. Senator Weaver. Senator Gudger.
Here. There are 13 members present. We have a quorum, so we can conduct business as we go forward. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a public hearing later into the agenda. We will be voting on that bill today, just to let you know. But before we do that, we have very important bills coming up. So Senator Livingston, I'm going to let you have the mic first and start off with SB 247. And Senator Livingston, I'm going to stop for 1 second. Everyone of the committee, there is an amendment to this bill. It looks like this, and I know there's a lot of amendments in front of you, but that particular one is what we'll be voting on in a second, so you can see that, so you can be looking at that as we discuss the bill. Senator Livingston, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm used to sitting up there and not out here, so I think this is my first time back in front of your committee. So since I've left it behind.
You're a great mentor. I appreciate you always taking care of it.
We'll see when we get through with this, okay? I bring before you today the Alabama Workforce Transformation Act. It's SB 247. This legislation would rename the Alabama Department of Labor to the Alabama Department of Workforce. It would name the head of the department to the Secretary of Workforce. Secretary of Workforce shall be the state's primary workforce development officer and shall be responsible for making recommendations to the governor and the legislature on statewide workforce development. The current functions of the Department of Labor will remain in the Department of Workforce. The department will be responsible for the administration of the Alabama Workforce Board, its executive committee, the newly established regional workforce boards. The functions currently housed in the Alabama Department of Commerce Workforce Development will be transferred to the Department of Workforce. All state-level staff and state-owned assets will be transferred to the Department of Workforce. A new Workforce Pathways Division will be established at the department that will be led by the division director. The state WIOA board would be reconstituted as the Alabama Workforce Board. The board will be comprised of some 40 members who are appointed by the governor, and the majority must be representative of industry or business. All state and local entities that receive statewide appropriations or appropriated funding for workforce development will be participating in and can cooperate with the activities and the recommendations of the board. The board will establish a 7-member executive committee that will be responsible for reviewing workforce development, budget requests, making recommendations of the expenditures of state and federal funds, and assisting the Secretary of Workforce in developing the strategic workforce plan. The basic concept is the Alabama Department of Labor will become the Alabama Department of Workforce. So.
Is there any discussion from the committee before we move into the amendment, or can we go forward with the amendment first, if that's okay? We have a motion with the amendment from Senator Gavan. Do we have a second? Senator Hatcher? Is it okay? Well, we need to call a roll on the first one.
Senator Butler.
Aye.
Senator Carnley. Senator Chastain. Aye. Senator Coleman. Aye. Senator Figures.
I really don't know, because, I mean, this is just so much. Let me pass for right now.
Senator Gavan. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Aye. Senator Kelly. Senator Melson. Senator Roberts. Senator Sessions. Senator Weaver. Senator Gudger.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, did we just vote on the amendment?
This is the amendment, and the vote on that particular amendment was 11 votes for yes, 3 abstentions. So the amendment has passed. Now we're on the amended bill. So you have the bill with the amendment.
I have a question.
Senator Gavan was first.
Okay.
Senator Coleman was second. Senator Figures, but we'll come to you third if that's okay. Senator Gavan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Leader, for working on this. And you gave me the opportunity to co-sponsor it. And just like a lot of the bills that I'm carrying, I know you didn't write this one, just like I didn't write the ones I'm carrying. And sometimes we get excited about different things that, sounds great. And I think just overall, and this bill is kind of, honestly, the least of my concerns as far as the problematic ones, but we've got some problematic bills in this package and some problematic provisions, I think. But my concern for this particular one is on page 12 and page 13. And it says there on, it talks about the bottom of page 12.
Senator Gavan, what line item are you on?
I'm sorry, I'm on line 334 specifically, because I'm trying to narrow it down. It says the board shall not directly exercise governing control of state and local agencies, departments, and it goes on and on. And then it says, except as otherwise prescribed by law. And I know that's one thing I see in a contract which says, where you're making a lot of changes in it, and people put that in there, and then you start worrying about, well, where else is it? So that is something I'd like to work with you and LSA on, defining exactly what we're doing here, because I don't like the idea of trumping local government, particularly by this board. And if we're going to do it, I'd like to see it itemized. That's my request.
Okay. Thank you, Senator.
Senator Livingston, you're okay with that request?
I just wrote that down. I'd be happy to work with Senator Gavan on that for sure.
Thank you. Senator Coleman, you were up next, I believe.
Thank you. And Senator, you just actually brought another question to mind. So I was under the impression that the only new piece of the legislation kind of was the crossed out stuff and the underlined, and what you just referred to was not either one of those pieces. So just FYI, put a pin there. My question to the sponsor of the legislation is why? Right, so I have to kind of understand kind of the nuts and bolts of why we are attempting to do what we're doing, because it would appear to me that using the terminology of labor lines up with the federal language. And so I just trying to understand what's the need for this.
This workforce package comes out of the work that has been done by the
I got that,
governor,
but I mean,
lieutenant
why
governor.
why read a whole rename and all of that? The why?
I think it's the emphasis on workforce and getting folks back to work is that emphasis. We have a labor participation rate shortage, and it's the combination of all these things that bring this back to work, and the focus of this being on the workforce development portion of it.
Okay. On the amendment, I didn't ask a question as you all were voting on it, but I'm going to always have issues on appointments when the appointments are only by position. And most of these appointments are by the governor's office. Is there somewhere in here that I've missed that says that either one of the minority caucuses has an appointment on the board?
I'm not sure that language where that's at in here, but I think it's already part of the existing board, the existing bill.
Show me where that is.
You would ask that, wouldn't you?
We work really, really hard through the years.
I'm going to be honest with you, ma'am. I'm not sure exactly where that's at in here, and I will.
So and I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
you.
So the gentleman did just outline the diversity language. That's one piece. But the other piece is the actual appointment power, which this amendment speaks to the appointment power. And so, you know, we've had some to where we have one of the minority leader here has an appointment as well. We're talking about workforce across the state of Alabama. We should also have the ability to appoint folks as well. There it is.
How about I will take that under advisement and work with you on that to make sure that language is included.
Thank you.
Senator Figures, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm one of the co-sponsors on this bill too, because in all of the excitement, I guess, of the workforce package. But had I known that we were changing the name from the Department of Labor to the Department of Workforce, I would not have been a sponsor. Let me first say that. And also in terms of the language that Senator Coleman pointed out in terms of the inclusivity part, on page 14, it says that the board should be. It doesn't say shall. And typically we use the word shall, meaning that it will be done, it has to be done, rather than should, which leaves, or may, which leaves it kind of open and not mandatory. So I have a problem with that too, as well. But I guess my other question is, are we saying that we are appointing an executive board under a department of the state? That's what this is setting up, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So is there any other department in this state that we have a board set up under it? Except for, does DHR have one? I'm not sure. I know they have the local
Boards, yes.
But
Sure.
so, which leads to my next question is, why is that necessary for this department? And honestly, and I also signed this co-sponsor out of my respect for you, Senator Livingston, as sponsor. But this is a bill that I wouldn't want to vote on today. I would have to vote no on it even coming out of committee because it's so comprehensive. And there are going to be so many consequences and ramifications of what this bill is doing that, you know, you really have to take your time and read it word for word, syllable for syllable. And as Senator Gavan pointed out, going back to another section for except for, you got to go back and forth to make sure you understand what it's doing and how it will be laid out. So, those are my problems that I can see right now that I have with it. I just don't understand why is it so important to do this particular department.
Again, it goes back to us working on the workforce, the way the things that we've been dealing with in the off season, the Governor's Council, the Lieutenant Governor's Council, and the Speaker's Council, all working, and the Pro Tem's Council, all working on ways to fix our workforce problem, getting folks back in. That this comes under a Department of Workforce. I understand your concerns, and
right, but I don't understand what's in place now has not helped that be the case. Still help us accomplish what we're trying to achieve. And I guess I need to know why, what in particular was in place that impeded us from doing what we thought we needed to be doing or achieving a goal.
okay,
But
I'd be happy to
we can
work
talk
with you
about it later.
That so.
Thank you.
Any other
Thank you, Mr.
questions I
Chairman.
can't answer?
I'm going to take just 1 second to answer one of the questions. You're asking about departments or groups or boards that are underneath. Pretty much every department. So you have Department of Commerce has right now has AIDT, Alabama Workforce Council, Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, the Regional Workforce Councils, Alabama Office of Apprenticeship, and the STEM Council. So
What about the Department of Human Services? I'm talking about departments like that.
Human Services have the SNAP program, food assistance, independent living for foster children,
those are not
jobs program.
boards.
and then the TAMPs. And so,
Those are not boards like this one, though, Senator.
right, so, and then you'll see that, but I think the merging of the two together, the bottom line, if you're looking at 30,000-foot view, is changing the way that we are handling and going forward with economic development to make sure that we have workers back into the workforce so that they're able to continue, that we can do economic development to get them here. And I think that it's only small part of what you were just asking, but I just wanted to say that while we were there.
And consolidation and under one agency where we have commerce working on part of it, workforce in another area, trying to work them in the same category so we have one place.
So will we still have a Secretary of Workforce?
We'll have Secretary of Workforce rather than Secretary of Labor.
And we'll still have a Secretary of Commerce as well.
It's a separate position, correct?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I could I make a comment to the senator's bill here?
Senator Chastain.
In serving on the Lieutenant Governor's Workforce Commission, I think part of the objective here is, as we looked at all of the different workforce entities that we have in the state, it was almost like each one was in a silo, and one didn't know what the other was doing, and we might have had duplicating services or overlapping. And so that was pretty much the intent of what we were trying to look at here in coming together. And basically, with this workforce quarterback, if you would, so that there would be one go-to person who would basically have an understanding of what each of these entities were doing so that we could be more efficient in our workforce, in our labor participation, in getting people employed, and not in continuing to duplicate services from one agency to the other. So hopefully that helped explain just a little bit of the intent of what this position was trying to do.
Thank you, Senator Chastain. Senator Melson, you had your hand up.
I move to give the bill a favorable report, please.
We have a motion for
I have one
favorable
more question.
report. And give me 1 second. Do we have a second? We have a second for Senator Sessions. Now we'll have discussion. Senator Figures, you're up first.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In terms of the appointments, I remember hearing you read that the appointments would be of people who were in business or...
I believe that was SB 252. That's coming up next.
Oh, okay. Well, in the appointments that will be made on this, dealing with this bill, will they be appointed from across the state?
Says business and industry, yes, ma'am.
But in certain parts of the state? That's what I thought I heard, in business and industry. But business and industry appointees could all come from the Birmingham area or the Huntsville area, or all come from the Mobile area, and then the other areas will be left out. So my question is will every part of the state be represented of this?
Yes, ma'am. I think they
In
would be.
this.
I do think they would be. It would be just beneficial to the state to be that way. So it
Of
doesn't
course.
state that. So
I would just need to see the language in the bill where it is, that's all. Well, I'm sure they won't all be coming from Mobile, but I at least want one from Mobile, because sometimes we're left out completely.
Senator Livingston, on the record, if you want them all from Coleman, I'm good with that. Okay, buddy?
I work on that.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from this committee on this particular bill that's amended?
If that language is not in here, Mr. Chairman, I will be bringing an amendment.
Okay, there'll be floor amendments, it sounds like. Senator Livingston said he's been working with you guys before we get to the floor, obviously. So any further discussion?
Yeah, just really quick.
Senator Coleman.
Just, again, I've already texted to try to get an amendment together so we can give an appointment also to the minority leaders, and just making sure that the gentleman has committed to me to work with me on that amendment.
Yes, ma'am. By all means.
The second piece, this is just a statement. When I was listening to the senator talk about, the reasons why and everybody who got together, who all was a part of the initial discussions on the workforce, this whole package? Like who was there? Because sometimes what can happen is if some of us feel as if there was no representation on the front end, that's what breeds suspicion on the back end. So I just was trying to figure out who was our.
Can you speak into the mic,
Yeah.
Senator, so we can hear you?
Senator Linda Coleman Madison was also on the workforce, Lieutenant Governor's workforce.
So
Council.
who all was on it? Like, you just said Coleman Madison.
She's the only African American.
No. Go ahead.
Representative Kelvin
Yeah.
Lawrence
On the House side?
on the House side, yes.
Was she the only woman? Okay. Want to make sure we're represented.
All right, any further discussion
That
before
was
we move
just it,
forward?
just making sure that in the future, especially on sweeping stuff like that, if we could just get information,
On the front side.
right?
And if I could, one
Senator
comment, Senator Coleman, is this commission has been in place since 2019. So it's, been working on this for 5 years. And so just wanted to share that with you as well. Okay?
Senator Coleman, I believe you're asking for a request from the Lieutenant Governor's office before the workforce is just to send out maybe a note to see to everybody that's in the Senate floor of who's on that. Is that correct?
I mean, this is, again, we have a public hearing today and we need to get to it, but it's just kind of a personal thing where we've been having quite a few pieces of legislation this session that are sweeping changes. And if we, meaning those us in the minority party side, were a part of those discussions, but also had ample information, I just feel like we could be together a little better, if that makes sense.
It does. We understand.
Yeah, it's a trust thing.
Point taken. Any further discussion? Having none, can please poll the count. Please poll the council. Please roll call, please.
Senator Butler.
Aye.
Senator Carnley. Senator Chastain.
Aye.
Senator Coleman.
I'm an aye with reservations, knowing that we're going to work on that amendment.
Senator Figures.
No.
Senator Gavan.
Aye.
Senator Hatcher.
Aye.
Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Melton.
Aye.
Senator Roberts. Senator Sessions. Senator Weaver. Senator Gudger.
Aye. So that is SB 247. That finishes up with a vote of 13 ayes and 1 no. And so that is a favorable review. Thank you, Senator Livingston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members.
Thank you, Senator Livingston. Next on the agenda is SB 252 from our pro tem Senator Reed on the Alabama Growth Alliance bill. I think there's an amendment on this bill too. So before we start, pro tem, if it's all right for me to say one thing, the amendment that we're going to be looking at, if you look in the top left, it looks like this, if everybody would like to see. It's a full page. In the top left corner, you're going to have a triple E-1. All right, so PMZN EEE-1. Did you get that? All right, Senator, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Appreciate the opportunity to be with you all, this august body. Glad you all are giving me the opportunity to be here in front of you. I'm talking today about the Alabama Growth Alliance legislation. This particular package of workforce development legislation, I think is important. In a lot of ways. We've already alluded to some of those. There have been great questions asked already in regards to some of the topics. And I think we are doing what we do very well in the Alabama Senate, and that is talk, debate, discuss, add to, amend, to get the best product for the people of Alabama. And so that's what this process is all about. Let me give you a little bit of a description of the Alabama Growth Alliance. Basically, it's going to consist of both public and private sector leaders that are focused on a collaboration and coordination and accountability effort related to economic development across the state. You just heard that there's going to be a change within departments of portions of commerce, portions of labor, different training entities, and those kinds of things are going to be coming together as a part of what's going to be this new department. And so as a result, the Alabama Growth Alliance is going to be an entity that will be both legislative, public members as well as private members with appointments that are going to basically offer advice on how we do this. One of the things that this group is going to do, the Alabama Growth Alliance, is we're going to be looking into the future of some of the elements of effectiveness for what we're doing with workforce growth, encouraging workforce participation. We're going to get to the amendment that the senator has in just a moment. These are friendly amendments that he's going to be bringing that I think help make this legislation better. But in looking at ideas of evaluating what we do This entity is going to have, one of its tasks is to be looking forward to say, in the growth of workforce for the state of Alabama, if our goal is to have more people in the workforce, if we're to focus our efforts in a way that allow more efficiency and outcomes in a positive way about what we're doing with workforce growth in our state, what do we need to be doing next? We already have entities in the state that look at incentives backwards. Did it work? What we're going to be doing with this group, or this group is going to be doing, is basically looking forward to say, these are the things we're doing now, and this is the advice that we're going to offer to the Secretary of Workforce from the Alabama Growth Alliance to be able to say, this is what we need to do next. These are the trends, these are the growth opportunities, these are the changes across America that we're seeing to well position Alabama to make the absolute most of our opportunities and moving forward to grow our economy. Now, one of the things that's important basically in this legislation is that there's going to be appointments to those 11 members that are going to serve in this alliance, basically with the goal of advising the Secretary of Workforce. So with that, and given that explanation, Mr. Chairman, I think that at this point, I think it'd be a good time for us to look at the amendment. And let me mention that, as you can see in the legislation, as I'm sure many of you have been able to review this bill was introduced on Thursday of last week. So we've had a week for everybody to be able to, while we were off, to be able to review this, hopefully, and be able to understand the parts and pieces of this alliance. There are 11 appointments that originally were the governor, the Secretary of Commerce, the Speaker of the House, the President Pro Tem of the Senate, the Chair of Innovate Alabama, and then 6 at-large appointments by the Governor of Alabama. That's going to be moderated and modified based on the amendments, one of the elements of the amendment that the chairman has. And I support this. I think spreading the appointing power and authority gives much more opportunity for this group to be able to be a good cross-section of what we're looking for in growth in the public and private sectors, as far as being able to give the kind of advice that we're looking for in long-range economic development, vision, and decisions for our state's strategy. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go back to you and allow you to talk about your amendment.
Sounds great. I did exactly what you said, Mr. Pro Tem, over the weekend and studied this particular bill pretty in depth. And there was one thing that really stood out to me. We have a legislative joint committee on business incentives for the state to make sure that the taxpayers are getting a return on their investment year to year. Now, remember, we do not dangle that carrot out in front of these industries. They have to do what they say they're going to do, create the jobs they're going to, the capital investment they have to, and then in a year in the rears, they get those incentives. So what we do with our joint body from the House and the Senate on that particular joint board is we look at those, like we said, in arrears. What happened a year ago, we find out what they're doing now. This legislation has a board that does the same thing, but saying, where do we want to place incentives in the future to attract businesses to come here? So we're working on both of these with one set of glasses for this board that we're creating today, looking forward. And then the board that is the joint board for committee for the incentives, we're looking backwards on what was the return on our investment. What I didn't notice in this particular bill was communication, right? We talked about communication. I would like for this board to communicate with the board going forward, and that was part of this amendment. And again, the amendment that we're looking at in the top left corner is PMZNEEE-1. And what that does on line 5 through line 8, and at the bottom line 19 through 23, there was 2 paragraphs in there that talked about this particular board and the incentives. All that does is say they have to communicate of what's worked and where we're going in the future to have the vision to make Alabama the best place it can be for business incentives. And so that's part of this amendment. The second part is what the Pro Tem had just talked about. The governor had 6 appointments, just fundamentally through my whole career in legislative from city council all the way to the Senate. I don't think one person needs to have all the appointments. And so what I did is I split those
Even
up.
though we love Kay Ivey.
We love Kay Ivey, but we don't think anyone should be able to do that just because I think it's the diversity of the power for the people. And 3 people, she would have 3 appointments. Governor would have 1, the pro tem would have 1, and the speaker would have 1. And the next question, just making sure everyone knows, on line 197 of the bill, which is on page 8, is the diversity language for gender, race, and geographical areas also. Senator Figures, I know you were looking at the geographical areas. Move adoption of the amendment. Do we have a second? We have a second, Senator Chastain. Any discussion? Senator Coleman, you have the mic.
I'm gonna talk this time before the amendment passes. And Pro Tem, know that I heard you. I heard what you said. Y'all had a week. And I hear you. But the same thing on the last amendment that I mentioned as it relates to appointment power. What you just pointed out, Mr. Chair, of course, is the diversity language. But the appointments, there's still no appointment there for anybody in the minority party. And so I would hope that we could rectify that, if at all possible. So, Ms. Pro Tem, charge this to me and not to the Minority Leader's Office, because normally you all will have had that discussion. So this is a Marika Coleman thing. But I do really think that we should have some appointment power on the minority side.
Point taken. Any further discussion? Senator Figures.
Yeah, that would be I would have to vote no on the amendment because of the minority participation not being added as well.
Okay, Senator. Any further discussion?
I look forward to working with Mr. Pro Tem on rectifying it.
All right, this particular vote will be voting on the amendment itself. And so make a favorable report. We already have that from Gavan and the second from Senator Chastain. Can we we need a roll call vote, please.
Senator Butler.
Aye.
Senator Cornley. Senator Chastain. Senator Coleman. No. Senator Figures.
No.
Senator Gavan. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Melson.
Aye.
Senator Roberts. Senator Sessions. Senator Weaver. Senator Gudger.
Aye. So the amendment that was in front of us passed 11-3. So now we're dealing with the amended bill as we go forward, which is SB 252. Any discussion on that before we have a motion to move forward?
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Unless there's an amendment. Okay, Senator Figures, you're up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Reed, on page 4, line 104, deals with the incorporation of Growth Alliance. It says the governor, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the President pro tempore of the Senate shall present to the Secretary of State an application signed by each of them for the formation of the Alabama Growth Alliance as a public corporation having a legal existence separate and apart from the state and any county, municipality, or political subdivision, which sets out forth the following. How can it be, can someone explain to me how it is separate and apart from the state when you have these elected officials, the governor, the Speaker of the House, and the President pro tem, be the ones who are signing for the application of this corporation, also serving on this committee or whatever, what is it called? Serving on the corporation board, and the governor, the Secretary of Commerce, Speaker of the House, and the President pro tem are the 5 ex officio members. How can this be separate from the state?
Okay, Senator, I think we're looking at 2 different, if I'm understanding you correctly, we're talking about 2 different things. So let me address the first one. you brought my attention to page 4, like 100, 102, 103, right there. And it's talking about on 108, a public corporation. And again, Senator, this is a legal discussion. I'm not an attorney, but I think this is referring to the fact that if you're going to have a public-private entity that is going to operate under statute, then that entity must register as a private corporation for it to be able to receive funding from the state and then to carry out actions and activities for the state. And the only reason I say that is because I was involved in what was Innovate Alabama, and I can remember I wasn't smart enough to ask the question, but somebody did in the process to be able to determine the answer to the question that you gave. And it was given back to the group that you have to identify it as a public corporation. It has to be incorporated so the Secretary of State has knowledge of it. It's on the books. The money for it may come from the state, but it has a statute, which is what we would do, to instruct how it would operate. And I think that this information is basically saying this is how that would be structured. And those that are the signatories are the ones that are the signatories of the corporation.
I understand that. But it says it has a legal existence separate and apart from the state. But the legal existence that you're putting forth includes elected officials from the state. So
You're about to be above my pay grade, Senator.
so if I could speak to an attorney, to explain that to me later.
I'm glad to do that. I've done the best I can in trying to explain what the differences are, but be glad to get, some learned folks we have here to give you some more insight.
Yeah, because that when it says legal existence and it says separate from the state, but yet you've got state elected officials who are who's developing the corporation, their names go on the articles of incorporation or whatever, and they're also on the board. I don't see how that's separate from the state, and they make the appointments to the board. I just don't, it doesn't make sense to me how it's apart from the state, and you say they could get state funding. So that doesn't make sense to me. I just need some clarification on
I'll be
that
anxious to gather the clarity, Senator, from
Thank
you
you.
and from me on this topic.
Thank you.
Senator Gavan.
Thank you. So some concerns about the wordsmithing of this, and one question on page 12, section 12, I want to talk to Othni about is I want to make sure we don't have any eminent domain powers thrown in with this. I don't think this group needs to have eminent domain powers. Then we've got
Senator?
Yes, sir.
What is the section you're referring to so I can mark it on my notes?
It's on
Is it page
line
11?
328, page 12, where it says they can take any action necessary to exercise its rights and fulfill its obligations, so forth and so on.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
And that's just a question mark I've got there. And I guess a concern I've got, and this, this is one of those, I think, beauty or unattractiveness is going to be in the eye of the beholder. When we look at on page 13, line 345, where it says the board may enter into agreements with one or more economic development entities to exercise any of the powers of the corporation, it gives me pause, because when I look back and okay, what's that definition? And that definition is on the actually the top of page 4. And basically, it's in a nutshell, it's a nonprofit that has a record or can demonstrate that it has a record capable of serving the entire state in matters involving economic development. I'd argue today we don't have such a creature in the state of Alabama because we're territorial. I mean, and when this committee, along with the House committee, had a meeting in Birmingham, and we had a state official talk about all of our partners, and then he said, and even TVA. You can imagine being from TVA country, that was problematic for me to hear that from a state official. So I'm going to need to be some warm and fuzzy feelings about all this as we go forward.
Sounds good, Senator. Thank you for your input and engagement.
Any further discussion? This time we can entertain a motion to move forward if the committee so chooses. We have a motion from Senator Chastain. We have a second from Senator Kelly. Any further discussion? Please roll call.
Senator Butler.
Aye.
Senator Cornley. Senator Chastain. Senator Coleman. Senator Figures.
No.
Senator Gavan. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Melson. Senator Roberts. Senator Sessions. Senator Weaver. Senator Gudger.
Aye. This particular vote on SB 252 has 11 yes, 1 no, and 2 abstentions. It has passed.
Mr. Chairman, were there 2 amendments for 252?
There was actually 3, and they had taken off all those except for the 1 amendment we had. So if you see more in front of you, throw them away.
Yeah.
That's fine. Thank you for bringing that up. Senator, favorable review. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the committee. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you
I
so
look
much.
forward to working with you, Senator, on this.
Senator, always.
Next is HB 230, Representative Wilcox. This is the same bill, I believe, Senator Sessions had. Is that correct?
It is, and my House colleague can explain it a whole lot better. So, Senator Gavan, you'll get a better explanation today.
Floor is yours, Representative Wilcox.
It's my honor, along with Representative Underwood, the co-sponsor, to present this bill to this distinguished committee, several of my former House members and my delegation members. And also, I see several small business owners amongst you. So I'm comfortable in presenting this bill. This came from a constituent rescue call. A constituent of Senator Sessions and I, our former city councilman John Williams, called me on a Saturday, very frustrated. And so when I started reading, listening to his complaints about what was going on, he manages a dental practice. He was talking to me about the new forms that we had created. And that's when I realized that the passage of Act 2022-252, it was the legislature's intent, all of our intent in 2022 to lessen the burden on small businesses and all business in Alabama. But what we inadvertently did, like we sometimes do, we created, by lessening the burden of the business privilege tax, we created a report where instead of just adding the $10 to the Alabama Department of Revenue, where they would have to go over to the Secretary of State's office and pay the $10. Well, that has resulted in so much confusion and an unnecessary paperwork burden on our businesses for $10. Luckily, I ran into our Secretary of State that Monday evening in Mobile at a function, and he had told me they were on it, that they were getting the same complaints. It was very confusing. The computer system had some glitches in it. So we sought to meet together, and with former Representative Mike Jones was already writing the bill. That Tuesday, that's where Representative Underwood, he's here. He's from the opposite end of the state from me. He's a CPA. He does business for small business. He works for small businesses every day. He was encountering this on behalf of his clients. So we all worked for the solution. This bill is a result of that work. I have not only Representative Underwood that can go over all the technical terms, I have Jonathan Hester and Mike Jones from the Secretary of State's office, and Rosemary Elabash, who's from the NFIB, is here, and there may be others that I haven't recognized.
Before we go forward, Representative Wilcox, does anybody on the committee have any further discussion since the last time this bill came through? And I believe Senator Gavan does. We'll start with you if that's all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I do want to take note to complain publicly about something, and it's probably one of those omnibus bills that I passed that had a bunch of stuff in there involving corporations, but it cost $105 to do a change of registered office, and that is ridiculously high, but that's something for another day. I was hoping somebody from the Secretary of State's office would be up front where I could skewer them a little bit over, but it's probably my fault. So I did have a pretty long conversation with Mike Jones and Mr. Hester as well about the issues here and the concerns. And I think I'll just sum it up by saying there are issues that we need to deal with, but that's not going to be for this session. And so I would move favorable report.
We have a motion for favorable report. We have a second, Senator Weaver. Any further discussion? Having none, to get a clean roll call, let's go ahead and make a new roll call, please.
Senator Butler. Senator Cornley. Senator Justine. Senator Coleman. Aye. Senator Figures.
Aye.
Senator Gavan. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Melson. Senator Roberts. Senator Sessions. Senator Weaver. Senator Gudger.
Aye. HB 230 passes 13 yeses, 1 abstention. HB 230 has a favorable review. Representative Wilcox, thank you so much. Representative Underwood, it's nice to see you hanging out up here, just giving us a little bit of security, it looks like.
First time in this room.
That was great. We come back and see us.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you so
Thank you, Mr.
much.
Chairman, and thank you, committee members.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, next should be a simple bill, I hope anyway. I know Mr. Senator Carnley's got a little bit of issues, I think, with it, but SB 225, I'm the one that is sponsoring that bill for state symbols. Designate Little Blue Stream as the official state grass of Alabama. I got this, but
Is it blue stream or blue stem?
yeah, Blue Stream. I'm so sorry. I got that. They got this from the college Republicans that came to us, said they wanted to work with us on passing a bill through to see the process of it. And I think Heather Weathers is here today. Hunter, please go ahead and go. If you'd like to speak for a second, we'd love for you to.
Yeah, my name's Hunter Weathers. I'm the chairman of the College Republicans, and on college campuses throughout the state, natural resources and the environment's an issue that comes up, whether you're liberal, conservative, whatever it may be. And we're supposed to be good stewards to the environment and ensure that our natural resources are protected. We teamed up with a group of conservationists out of Huntsville, trying to find ways to protect the biodiversity of Alabama and our small animals, small mammals, butterflies, wildlife, rabbits, those kind of animals. This bill designates Little Blue Stem, which is found from the mountains of Huntsville all the way to the Gulf Coast, as the native state grass. I've worked with the Farmers Federation and Commissioner Rick Pate to get their approval on this. And with that being said, I'm happy to take any questions y'all may have.
Senator Figures, you're up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. But since I've spoken today, I will yield to Senator Kelly.
Thank you. So since this was a college project, would you clarify, is this lawn mowing grass or smoking grass?
So this is more of a pasture land grass. It grows about 4 feet tall. It has a root system between 12 to 18 inches deep that's great for soil stability and ecological management.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Senator Kelly. Senator Figures.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have never heard of little blue stem grass. Is this the type grass that you can also put on your lawns?
It would be more used in landscaping, so in flower beds, and it can be used to replace shrubs. Like I said, it's more of a taller grass. People do use it in landscaping. It's mostly used in pasture lands, and it grows wild throughout the state.
So what is your goal in naming this the official state native grass?
So Alabama, before habitation and before settlement, was a system of prairies and grasslands throughout the state. We are now closed canopy forest. It hinders wildlife and biological diversity throughout the state, and doing this would hopefully encourage people to plant this and create those natural prairies and ecosystems to allow small game and different animals and plants to be able to thrive, instead of having where sunlight can't come into the forest floor, hopefully be able to open that up.
I don't know, I just have apprehension about naming this grass, which I've never heard of. Have you ever heard of this, Senator?
Most lawn grass is not native. This is actually a native grass. Now, if we've heard of it, it's not the most popular one that's out there because so many people are used to Bermuda or something like that, but this is native to Alabama.
I know it says native, but that's why I'm asking. And usually when we name something that's the official whatever of Alabama, it's very popular and most people know about it. But how many of you have ever heard of blue stem grass?
We've got one over here, I believe, that has.
It's a weed where I'm from. So.
That was the question as to why, if it was a smoking grass.
I've got a son.
Not that kind of weed. I'm saying a weed that's in the crop that you try to kill.
You said it, Senator Carnley.
He already clarified that. He clarified the type of.
And you're sitting next to Senator Kelly.
So, but I have a son that's in landscaping, and I've heard of it before.
Okay, just explain it away. Okay. I mean, that's my only apprehension of it. And I don't know if we're going to, when you name something as an official something of a state, it's supposed to be special and like none other. And I just have a question or a feeling that it's going to open up a Pandora's box, that whenever we want somebody to do something more of or whatever, that we're going to make it an official whatever of the state.
Understand, point taken.
As if the majority party at that time wants it to pass.
Mm-hmm.
That's my only concern with it. I'm sorry.
Senator Cavan, I think you're next. After that, Senator Melson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think if we're going to give a true picture of the political process, we need to let people know all politics is local. Seeing as how my mama's from the Wiregrass, I think the Wiregrass, there's a strong.
Here we go.
Reason for that.
I really don't have a problem with that, Senator Cavan.
Well, an amendment would work well and make it the native wiregrass grass, right?
Do you have anything, Senator Melson? You had your hand up.
I actually planted it up and down my driveway. It comes in a wildlife mix, so it's very common to plant it for wildlife, whether it's rats and mice up to deer. I mean, it's pretty common to plant. I just amazed it's so controversial. But I remember the sweet potato and the sweet potato and the lane cake.
Sweet potatoes are always good.
Sweet potato.
That's it. We have a motion from Senator Butler earlier.
Chairman,
Correct.
excuse me,
We have
Mr. Chairman.
we're going. Do we have a motion, a second from someone? From Senator Weaver, and then we have further discussion. Senator Sessions.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know this is your bill and you probably want to get it out, but I have a couple of questions.
Yes, the chairman's bill.
Several words in here that I can't even pronounce, and it's really
Scientific word.
really hard for me to vote for something that I can't pronounce. But my other question, I guess, would be for the young man out here. What are the other native grasses to the state of Alabama?
There is none.
It's the only native grass?
We don't designate a state grass.
I know we don't designate a state.
I know, but I'm just saying what other
Is there other
grasses
species
within the
of
state
native
are
grass?
native.
There's various different species. The problem would be is finding one that's native throughout the state. Most are geographically specific. Talking with different conservationists and foresters and wildlife managers, little blue stem is one of the only grasses that's found throughout the state.
From Indian. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I got you. I still can't, I don't know that I can vote for this with all these words in here. I'm a farmer, and a lot of those grasses are weeds.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, since this is your bill, I'm going to vote for it to come out of committee, but I can't guarantee you I'll vote for it.
I appreciate the vote. Thank you so much for
Mr.
today.
Chairman.
Senator Coleman.
I know that's right. So for the people on that we really do want to hear the sponsor pronounce these words. I just wanted to commend the young man for coming today, well prepared today, well researched. We get folks that come before us oftentimes, and it's not always the case. So I just wanted to encourage you to continue on and doing the work. Party affiliation, off a little bit. Well researched, and so again, you're definitely on your way, and you really could probably teach a class for some of my colleagues about coming before us well prepared. So just want to continue to encourage.
Easy. Senator Coleman, you beat me to the punch of saying congratulations, and thank you for bringing this, Mr. Weathers. We appreciate it. And all that you've done in the past to be able to get it to this point, and really just going through the legislative process. This is what it's about, having an idea of bringing it through the legislative process so that it becomes an official law. But thank you for being here today. I think you really appreciate you bringing it to us. Having said that, we have a first and a second. All in favor of using previous roll. Is that okay without objection?
I'm going to abstain because I do believe the wiregrass should be in there somewhere.
We don't have a clean roll, so let's call roll.
Senator Butler. Aye. Senator Carnley. Senator Chastain. Senator Coleman.
Aye.
Senator Figures.
Aye.
Senator Gavan. Senator Hatcher.
Aye with the reservations.
Senator Hatcher.
He said aye.
Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly.
Aye.
Senator Melson. Senator Roberts. Senator Sessions.
Aye with reservations.
Senator Weaver. Senator Gudger.
Aye. Mr. Weathers, SB 225 passes with favorable review, having a 12-2 vote. And just to make sure the committee knows, anyone that voted yes, you'll get some blue stem grass next week. The ones that said no, you're not getting anything. So sorry about that. Yeah, exactly.
We'll round
Weathers,
up.
thank you for being here today. All right, we're moving to our public hearing. Senator Orr is up, SB 231. Ladies and gentlemen, where is that particular? Before you start, Senator, there is an amendment to this bill. If everybody would like to look in the top left corner of the last three digits are SSS-1. It looks like this right here. So this is what the amendment looks like if you are looking at it. Having said that, Senator Orr, you're on the mic, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, this is a pretty simple bill. Tennessee and Georgia have both passed a similar version. And what it does is make the vote on organizing a union a secret ballot or secret vote, private vote, if you're going to receive state funds. So if you receive the state funds for incentives for a particular project, and it all starts in 25, so it's not retroactive, then if there's an organizing effort, it needs to be by secret ballot. Doesn't stop it, doesn't prevent it at all. Just says got to vote by private ballot. And that would prevent a company or employer from strong-arming employees. You need to vote against this, you need to vote against this. Would prevent a union from strong-arming employees saying, you got to vote for it, you got to vote for it. So I'm open to any questions you may have.
I've got one question I had heard earlier today, and I had talked to you about that, but if someone is already unionized, does this bill affect them at all?
No, it's all prospective.
Organizing and going forward, correct? Not anyone that is already.
And you have to receive state incentives for a particular project for it even to be
in effect.
Yeah.
Sounds great. What I'd like to do, Senator Orr, unless there's further discussion, this is the process I would like to do. I'd like to give equal representation on the proponents and opponents. So there are a lot of opponents, but we're going to run out of time, which we already have. So there's 3 proponents. So the ladies and gentlemen of the opponents, I would like to have 3 that are on this list. You figure out what entities you represent, and I will have any of you 3 come up, but you're able to do that. That'll be 2 minutes per person. On the proponents, you're going to have 2 minutes. If not, we'll be here for 2 hours. So after that, I would like a rebuttal if you'd like any, Senator Orr, since it's your bill and you're the sponsor, and then we will take a vote. Senator Figures.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Orr, before you leave, if you could put this in real, how there was a representative in the House used to say, put it down where the goat can get it or something. Make it, just simplify it for me. Yeah, the wiregrass. So will this bill, if this bill passes, will it say that any corporation, say for instance Mercedes, that got the incentives from the state that it did to come to Alabama, and the employees within Mercedes organized to become unionized, does that say that the state of Alabama will go back to Mercedes and get that money back?
Can't. It all starts January 1st. So any incentives.
No. I was just using that as an example. I'm not saying that you could retroactively go back.
Right.
But I'm saying any corporate that is what you're saying, that any corporation that receives any kind of incentive, should they become unionized?
No. So let's take a corporation, March of 25.
Okay.
They got incentives February of 25.
Okay.
Okay, so they got incentives, they're starting. They opened the doors April of 25, okay? Then there's an organizing effort in May of 25. All this bill would say, okay, there's an organizing effort, fine. You've got to do it by secret ballot, private ballot, for the union, against the union. If they don't do that, then yes, there would be in jeopardy of having their incentives clawed back.
They don't, when they take a vote for unions, don't they do private ballot anyway? No?
No, not with card check things. So anyway.
We're going to start with
How about secret ballot?
Before we start with the public hearing, I know we have an amendment.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we adopt the amendment.
We have a motion, Senator Roberts. We have a second, Senator Gavan.
What does the amendment do?
It is this one I was just talking about, triple S one that looks like this.
It just adds counties and municipalities to states.
Okay.
And so having a motion and a second, let's do a roll call vote to get a clean roll.
Senator Butler. Aye. Senator Cornley. Senator Chastain. Senator Coleman. No. Senator Figures. Senator Gavan.
Aye.
Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Milson. Senator Roberts. Senator Sessions. Senator Weaver. Senator Gudger.
Aye. That particular amendment is 11-3. It passes, and so now we're dealing with the amended bill as we go forward. Before we do with the bill, we're going to have a public hearing. As I said, we have 3 proponents, and then we'll take 3 opponents from the different entities. If you please don't speak from the same entity if you're representing. I'm going to start with the proponent. Yes.
May I just appeal to you? I mean, I know it's your committee. A lot of people drove here from all over the state of Alabama. And I know that if I had known, because normally after this committee, we'll have to go into session 2, so we are kind of time barred. I probably would have shut my mouth some moving forward, earlier in the committee, had I known that it was going to prevent people from having the ability to speak. So I'm just appealing for whatever that's worth, that maybe we have a few more than 3 people. How many people signed up as opponents?
16 opponents, 3 opponents. So instead of doing 2 minutes, we're going to do 3 minutes per person to give everybody an extra minute.
No, we're going to just give everybody a minute.
A minute or so.
It won't happen. It'll take too long to come up and down, and so I'm not going to do that.
Mr. Chairman, but this is a public hearing. I mean, the purpose of public hearings.
And we've been going an hour and 10 minutes, but it's up to me to have my own decision, and so this is what we're going to do. We're going to have 3 opponents, 3 proponents, and then you have other meetings after this, so we're going to move forward. Stephanie Smith, you're up first. Are you in the room? Okay. Stephanie, you got 3 minutes. When the buzzer goes off, I'm going to shut you down, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Stephanie Smith. I'm the president of the Alabama Policy Institute. I stand in support of this bill because regardless of the circumstances or results of any election, one thing remains the same in the state of Alabama for all Alabamians. I believe we all want fairness. We all want integrity in the process, and we want the right to vote freely and without coercion, and we want our votes to count. Passing this law would give employees those exact same things if and when their place of employment goes through a unionization process. Passing this law will send a strong message to private employers that indicates that both the legislature and the state of Alabama will protect businesses and their employees from any unwanted or heavy-handed tactics in internal elections. In other states, unions don't just utilize intimidation tactics, but they can also make false promises to gain membership. However, even if those things never happen once in the state of Alabama, private elections with secret ballots provide both the time and ability for employees to reflect upon and make decisions that impact their work and their families. The passage of this legislation would mirror the methods by which we all vote for our representatives. In fact, how we all voted for you. The process will mirror how we chose our state senators, our state representatives, our governor, our Congress, and even our president. Employees should have those exact same rights to a private and secret ballot when choosing who represents them at their place of work. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the young lady.
For me or for Ms. Smith?
For her.
Yes.
When people vote when employees vote to be unionized or not, are they a government entity?
No, but it's the...
So why would you compare them to people voting for us as elected officials?
Because it should be a similar process.
But that is your opinion, but...
I'm here to state my opinion.
I know you are, but I like to make my decisions based on what is right. And for you to compare that to us as government officials being voted on, it's not the same thing.
It's a representation.
And how could you expect us to pass a statute to make their organization, that's just like us passing a statute telling my sorority, the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority and Delta Sigma Theta sorority, how we are to take votes in our chapters. And that's not the state's business.
It's the state's business to protect workers. I think you would agree with that.
I think the workers...
Not every worker is a union worker, and not every worker wants to be a union worker.
Well, they may not.
Which is their choice.
Please don't. I don't want to have anybody ejected from the meeting.
I was going to say, ladies and gentlemen, please don't speak in the audience. That's not for...
Which I agree. I agree. It is their choice.
But I've asked my question. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion on that? All right, next we're going to go to an opponent. Who would like to go first on this? Please come to the mic and please state your name, please, ma'am.
My name is Clementine Jenkins. I'd also like for you to know where I'm from. I'm from the Wiregrass. I'm a business representative for the employees working on the M1 contract who performs maintenance on the aircraft that our government used to train their pilots. Okay, those employees had free choice of joining a union. And if you look around the Wiregrass, you would see a substantial difference in the livelihood of those union members versus when you go out into some of the other areas that are employees who are just covered by the AWD. It concerns me with the state that Alabama is in, and they would try to restrict better paying jobs in this state. You're hurting yourselves. If employees who work on a union, their wages are substantially more than the AWD. More wages mean you get more taxes. So why would you want to restrict yourself by restricting the employees who can join a union? I implore you to look at what the Department of Labor say about unions. The Department of Labor say if you voluntarily have 50% of the employees who want to join a union, they can go to their employers and say, we've all got together, we voted, and we want to join a union. And you don't have to go through collecting the cards. There's two processes that can be used. Nobody forces anybody to fill out a card. But if you want to be in a union, yeah, she's right, you can go out and collect cards. But it prolongs the process. When you've got employees who say, we want to have a union, and go to their employer, and their employer say, okay, we'll go to the Department of Labor, we'll tell them to come in and do the election, and we'll recognize you. So trying to hinder that process of what the Department of Labor has already given us a right to, I'm appalled that my great state of Alabama that I love so dearly because I've been here all of my life, I just cannot understand why our elected officials that we voted for want to continue to hold this state back. Alabama, it's time to move forward.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. Next is F. Vincent. You'll have to pronounce your last name for me. Please state your name.
My name is Vincent Vernuccio, and I'm a senior fellow with the Workers for Opportunity Project of the Mackinac Center for Public Policy. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for giving me the opportunity to testify here today. I am here in support of SB 231 that protects the privacy and the sanctity of the ballot for the workers of Alabama. As you've heard, there are two ways that private sector workers can organize. They can organize via a secret ballot election, just like you all run for election, just like we vote for Congress, for governor, for state legislature, for president. Or they can organize by card check. It has been repeatedly found that card check is an inferior process, leading to intimidation or coercion. It could also lead to making a rash decision without the opportunity to reflect. That is what the secret ballot offers. It offers the privacy of the ballot box. It offers time for reflection. It gives workers time to hear both sides of the story and make an informed decision on whether or not they want to bring in a union at their workplace. This only applies to companies that get future economic incentives. It also only applies to companies that are not unionized. If a company is unionized already, they've organized, it's over. This does not apply. This also does not apply to unionized workers, whether or not they want to join a union and pay a union. They have that ability regardless of whether this bill passes. It's also in the democratic process, and it is similar. This is not like joining a club. When a union organizes, they get a monopoly of representation. And yes, they represent, just like you represent your constituency. And they have the union speak for them, whether they want that union to speak for them or not. That is why it is so important to give them the informed choice of a secret ballot election. We've also heard questions of whether this is preempted by federal law. Well, I can give you multiple examples from around the country of where similar laws that favor unions, that favor the card check process, is mandated by local or state law, such as San Francisco, Pittsburgh, New York City, New York State, Maryland, Los Angeles, California. In fact, in California, similar issues are even granted unions. For granting a marijuana license, they have to give unions certain concessions. So this is not preempted by federal law. We've also heard in other states, and you've already heard that Tennessee has passed this law, so has Georgia. Georgia, it's simply waiting for the governor's signature, and this is one of Governor Kebb's signature legislative priorities. There have been no lawsuits so far on those bills. This is about protecting the sanctity of the secret ballot, is protecting the privacy of workers. And I will close by quoting a quote from today.
It's time. Do it quick.
A union president said, "I will fight like hell to kill this bill, but personally, I don't think it will hurt us."
Thank you very much. Please, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next is the opponents. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
So my name is Hayden Wright. I'm a constituent of April Weaver out of West Boston, Alabama. I've lived and worked in Alabama my entire life. And I'm really saddened to see the legislation being presented by Representative Orr today. I come from a union family. My father is a retired UMWA coal miner out of Brookwood, Alabama. My mother's a retired educator of 37 years. I grew up seeing the union difference in my family. I saw how a union provided good health care. I saw how it provided stability within my community. And this is a lesson that I'm teaching my own children today. I'm a steward for MPEU Local 70 here in Alabama, and I served as one of the auxiliary presidents for the UMWA during the Warrior Met strike. I taught in the public school system for 11 years. I saw the difference made when a parent had a union job in the lives of my students. I now work as a senior organizer for Jobs to Move America, who voluntarily recognized our union and respected our voice as a worker. We have a strong workforce development program that works with companies, the workers, and the community to increase opportunities in the workforce. This bill would harm these efforts and endanger development funds to support this work. And I'm asking you today to not take the option of voluntary recognition away from other workers and employers in our state. Passing this legislation would mean a long court battle for all of you, as it will almost certainly be struck down. Because prior to what the gentleman before me liked to say, you cannot supersede federal law with state law. There are two paths recognized at the federal level, and recognition is one. So I'm asking you to do the right thing. This bill would hurt Alabama businesses that want to do the right thing and force them to deal with federal governments to administer an election that costs even more money. So as a movement, we believe we are stronger as a collective voice, and we will not be silent when workers' rights are under attack in our state. Senate Bill 231 is wrong for workers, it's wrong for businesses, and it's wrong for Alabama. And I strongly urge you to vote no on this piece of legislation.
Thank you, Mrs. Wright. Next, for the proponent side is Alan Harris. Mr. Harris, for the record, just state with who you're with, please, sir.
Yes.
And your name.
Yes, sir. My name is Alan Harris. I've been an Alabama citizen my entire life. It's a great state. We're doing great things, and I wouldn't live anywhere else. I'm a general contractor by profession. I'd like to thank, before I get started, thank the committee, Senator Orr, and the sponsors for being alert to the need to codify something to protect and improve one of our most valuable commodities in the state. That's the Alabama worker. I work hundreds of men, and they're good men, and they're well paid, and they're very happy. Senate Bill 231 ensures that workers for Alabama industries that receive state incentives have the same right to a private vote as we citizens do in a political election, for instance. When companies hold a unionization vote, unlike a private voting booth or private vote, workers may be pressured to support or to vote publicly in front of union organizers. This lack of privacy, known as a card check, can create an environment where workers may feel pressured to approve the union. In my opinion, SB 231 wisely addresses this concern by ensuring that for those industries that receive state incentives, workers can cast their vote freely without fear of any kind of intimidation or repercussion. The Associated Builders and Contractors of Alabama support the goal of protecting Alabama's right to a private vote. Think about it this way. The only way a worker's choice can be exercised fairly is to be exercised privately. The vote, for my opinion, voting in Alabama for anything, from a Sunday family meeting to a political election, to a church vote, or to a business vote, is sacred. And we can, in a vote, a citizen or member can get as involved as he wants or not involved at all. But when he goes to vote, he needs to do that on his own recognizance without pressure. I want to thank you again for taking the time to try to better the state of Alabama. Any questions?
I think we're good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the last opponent who would like to speak, and then would you please give your name for the record, please, sir?
My name is Mustafa Hassan. I'm with Communication Workers of America. I'm out of Huntsville, Alabama. First and foremost, I want to say this. The union is the workers. It's not a separate entity. And the workers collectively vote and decide whether we want to have the union in our place of business. I've personally experienced this myself back in 2017. I work at the DirecTV call center in Huntsville, Alabama. Prior to us being unionized, people would literally be fired almost every day. We had no rights. We had no say-so in our metrics and things of that sort. Our jobs are often outsourced overseas. AT&T purchased DirecTV back in 2016, and it gave us an option to do the card check process. My personal experience is there were no hiccups. It was a smooth situation. Workers were not being intimidated to vote for the union. And my thing is this too, if the bill is so great, we're the workers up here saying we're against it. The workers, for this bill, I'm sorry. The workers, as to a man, everybody here is saying we're against it because it makes the process more difficult to unionize. Since then, we've been able to bargain our own contract. We have a say-so in what we get. We have certain job protections where we get one of them is we get a certain amount of calls that are guaranteed to come into our center, and that protects jobs for us. Without that, I don't even think our center would be open. Those calls would be going overseas somewhere. So I urge all you to vote no on SB 231.
Any questions, committee? Thank you, sir.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
Can you explain the card check, what we're talking about here?
Yeah, the card check process is where we can talk to organizers. If you are in favor of voting to be unionized, you can fill out a card stating that you are in favor to be unionized. That's it. It's not, and we keep saying it's public. You can fill out that card. Your co-workers, they don't need to know.
Yeah, and I got a question for the bill sponsor. That was it. Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Senator Carlin, before we get there, Senator Orr, would you like to take the mic?
I'll ask my question while you're walking here. We are not eliminating anybody's right to unionize via card check, secret ballot, or anything, right? No, it doesn't. It just eliminates the ability to get incentives. So if you want to unionize, I'm just stating the fact, right?
If you didn't get incentives, it's moot, because that's the only leverage the state has, is to claw back those incentives. Or
right, but I guess what I'm saying, I'm hearing that we're not allowing people to unionize. Is that correct?
Some companies are firing you trying to unionize.
No, I guess what I'm saying, if you want to unionize, this bill is not stopping them from going through the card check or anything like that, correct?
It says when you get 50% or you get a majority, that final election has to be by secret ballot.
Or incentives.
No. Well, if you got incentives, they're subject to being clawed back unless you have that secret ballot.
Don't unionize or we're not going to pay you, state of Alabama.
We're going to keep it orderly in here. So Senator Carnley, Senator Orr, if y'all had any other discussion or any other questions on that, any other questions for Senator Orr?
Mr. Chairman.
We have a comment. Senator Sessions up first, and we're coming to you, Senator Gavan. Senator Sessions.
Senator Orr, I'm going to support your legislation. Just make a couple comments. I'm not anti-union. Unions, I said it earlier, unions are a lot like good government. They're a necessary evil. They have their place in the workforce, but there are a lot of companies that can't afford the labor, the expense, or the unionization and the demands that come with it and the added expense. So what you're going to wind up doing, if those companies unionize, you're putting them out of business. You're putting them out of business, and you're losing all those jobs. So I'll be supporting this legislation. It does not stop anyone from unionizing. It just stops them from being able. Basically, it makes them have to have a secret ballot to unionize. Correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
If you got incentives, that's the triggering event.
Senator Gavan, you're up.
Thank you. I am very supportive of Alabama being a right-to-work state. I have pause about telling private businesses what they can and cannot do. Now, granted, I get that it's, they can do whatever they want to do, but we'd be taking an incentive back. I'm going to vote for it in committee, but I'm just reluctant about the principle about telling the business what they can do on that issue.
Thank you, Senator McGann. Senator Figures, you were up next, and then Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me just say, I'm a union baby because my father was in the union, was a member of a union. He worked for Southern Railway Company many years ago. He worked there 35 years and never missed a day from work for 35 years. I remember helping him fill out his money orders to pay his union dues. And that's why we were blessed to have the lifestyle that we were able to live. And I know that it wouldn't be a reason for unions if businesses treated employees properly. And particularly in this day and age, we have businesses that are making millions, billions, and trillions of dollars. And it seems that the ones that make the most want to do the least or pay the least so that they can continue to make more of money that they will never get to spend in their or their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren will ever spend. So I don't understand the greediness of it. Also, when you pay people properly and you give them good, is higher, the productivity is higher. So it all works together. So I don't want to do anything that's going to squander a person's right to feel that they need to have, to be a part of a union or that they need to organize, because it is, and most of them wouldn't want to organize if things were going right. I mean, the stories I've heard and the conditions that people are still working under in 2024, it broke my heart. So I'll be voting no. You know I love you, Senator Orr. And but you've known me for all the years that you've been in the Senate, because I was here when you got here. So I have to go with what I believe and what I know as a child of a union member, and I know what it did for our family, as they mentioned, health care, more money. So I would have to vote no in committee and on the floor and fight it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Figures. Senator Coleman, you were next.
Thank you. I just wanted to personally, and it's not my fault, but wanted to apologize to the people who drove all of this way and did not get an opportunity to speak today. This is supposed to be the people's house. The state house is supposed to be the people's house. We serve at the pleasure of the people. So I just hate that you all didn't get an opportunity to let the legislature hear your voice today. So I'm so sorry for that. The other portion, though, as I was listening to Senator, to the folks who came to speak in support of this legislation, as a lawyer, we deal in facts. And what I heard was card check might lead to, can be, maybe, might happen, could cause coercion, but even if it doesn't, we need to pass this legislation anyway. The woman that spoke today, she was the one that said we need to pass it anyway from the Policy Institute. She's been busy today. This is the second committee I've seen her in today. And I thought as a nonprofit, it was supposed to be nonpartisan, but they've been in on some partisan pieces of legislation today. But I want to know, what are the facts? What are the facts? I heard my colleagues say that unionization causes companies to close their doors. Where is that cited? Where is the report that shows us that? So if we're going to make an informed decision, y'all, please bring us some actual facts and not might happen, can be, maybe, might lead to. But even if it doesn't do that, we need to pass this piece of legislation anyway. No further comment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Coleman. Any further discussion? Having none, we have a motion from Senator Roberts to move the bill as amended. We have a second.
I'll second.
Second, Senator Sessions. Without discussion, we'll go forward in making a roll call vote.
Senator Butler.
Aye.
Senator Cornley. Senator Chastain. Senator Coleman. Senator Figures. Senator Gavan. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Melson.
Aye.
Senator Roberts. Senator Sessions. Senator Weaver. Senator Gudger.
SB 231, Senator Orr is a favorable motion to move it to the floor with an 11-3 vote. Thank you. Next on the agenda is SB 249, Senator Cornley. You're up.
Thank you, sir.
Politicians.
This is, I folded up my stuff. See here. So what this does, I have a local tribe that's recognized by the state. They're not a federal tribe. And what they requested is that when they have events like a powwow, that they would be able to employ local police. It also doesn't define what a reservation is. It just defines that a reservation is their boundary. What this would do is, by giving that, we copied what Senator Williams did with the MOA tribe, just to allow them to be able to apply for additional grants, nothing at the federal level, but mostly the state. So they have come to me and requested this, and what we did is we copied what Senator Williams passed via the MOA tribe, and just request that we move this for a vote.
So I'll take that as a motion, and then we have further discussion, it looks like. So we're going to hold the motion. Senator Melson.
I just had a question.
Go ahead, discussion.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure, do these have any requirement like APOS trained or?
Yes, it is. It's in the bill there.
I'm sorry, I haven't read it. I apologize.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So let me get right here. So basically, I mean, they have to have the same requirements, you know, as a police officer. Yeah.
So they would be eligible for grants, you said. Is that, and you said state grants is, I mean, is.
Well, what they're looking for is, this is an opportunity, like if they want to apply to try to get a health clinic in there, they could do that.
But they can't currently?
No. Okay. So what this does is it just says they have policing powers. If they choose to, they don't have to, though.
You have to be APOS certified.
Yeah, I was trying to look for it right here. I didn't highlight it. Let me look right here. Any police officer hired by the tribe pursuant to this subsection shall be charged with all of the powers of state police officers, including but not limited to the right to bear firearms. A police officer may do any of the following.
What line item are you on, sir?
I am on page 2. That's.
And
yeah.
We have to worry about another speed trap on the west side of the state because of this bill, or is this another speed trap on the west side of the state or anything I got to worry about? I mean, is this?
No, they can't do anything off the reservation.
Well, what if I want to drive through the reservation?
You'd be trespassing at that point. There's no public roads through the reservation.
Oh, that's right. There's no public.
They're off, like, just out in vacant land.
They have other rights, like able to
in the rural
buy
part of the
cigarettes
county.
and
What now?
they sell tobacco products and all that. Are they that type? Okay. So
they're just state recognized. They're not federally recognized. Never will be.
Okay.
Say again.
These are the tribe that's always wanted to get bingo and other recognized.
Yeah, we're going for sports betting, Nick.
No, but
I thought you were joking.
No, I was serious. Isn't this the one in Southwest Alabama that's?
No.
Okay.
This is Southeast Alabama, but because they're not federally recognized, they don't have any of the rights that the Porch Creek would have. They're just recognized solely by the state.
And they're. I'll talk to him later.
Yeah.
Senator Roberts, you're up.
Senator Carnley, we discussed this before, and I have many reservations about this. No pun. I have concerns.
No pun intended.
No pun intended for sure there.
Yeah.
I just don't know that this is I'm just not good with doing this, and we've talked about it, and I think what leads to next and next is my concern, so I'll just leave it at that, sir.
I understand.
Any further discussion from the committee? Senator Weaver. Please speak in the mic there.
So I know that, so by allowing them to provide police protection for tribal grounds, does it have any kind of requirement that would require police outside of the reservation to work with them, like K-9 units or other people that would provide additional police support for them? Does it have any kind of requirement for those people outside the reservation to have collaborative work with them?
I mean, there's no requirement. We're not separating, what the local law enforcement can do. But no, nothing is written in here saying that they have to work with them. I mean, currently what they do is they have local law enforcement. If there's, if there's an issue, they have to call them, but if they come out there for a special event, they have to pay them, if they have their powwow or any kind of tribal event. This would just... If
they were to arrest someone, where would...
They would have to go to the county, or, the county court. So they're not taking so if they arrest them, they would go under the same court system, legal system, as if they were arrested outside the reservation. Right.
Senator Weaver, anything else? Senator Kelly, you were up next. And we have Senator Roberts after that.
So on their land, who has police jurisdiction now, and why is it not adequate?
The county has it, but if they have a special event, they can't it'd be like if you had an event, you would have to employ outside security to come in. And so what they want to do is they want to be able to have an employee, somebody that would be there full time if they choose to protect the grounds from somebody trespassing or, anything like that. What this does, it allows them to have somebody at their discretion rather than having to depend on the county, the county sheriff and the deputies to come out there. If they call, they're on the, that's their purpose for the police.
Yes. Senator Carnley.
Which way? Yes.
Aren't you ultimately, though, giving up police powers to do this for that area?
I will verify that.
I've been told we lose this land, and that's one more concern that I have. I can hire police officers to come protect my house if I want to. I have the ability to do that. We all have that ability.
Right.
And that's why I don't know that legislation.
But don't we do that for public universities now? I mean, don't they have their own police forces? Right. Do what now?
Yeah.
But all of them are? I mean, so we're saying that every officer on all these universities? Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying, I'll find out for you to make sure, just so I can answer your question, but I will confirm. But at this point, the county has jurisdiction over them. And if they don't hire somebody, this bill doesn't change that. It allows them to still have that over them.
I just question the need to, this almost further recognizes, in my opinion, for another method, and that's where my heartburn comes up. Because dominoes falling is my big concern.
Senator Roberts, any other questions? Next is Senator Gavan.
I just think it'd be helpful if you find out. My perception is it's not mutually exclusive. In other words, Aaliyah is still going to have authority there. The county, whatever county or counties that they're located in, would still have authority.
Right.
It's another layer, sort of like a local police department. That's my take on it. So I'd move favorable.
Thank you.
We got a motion for favorable. Do we have a second? Carnley actually made the motion, so we're going to put Senator Gavan as a second. Any further discussion? Having none, please roll call the last vote just to be on the safe side.
Senator Butler. Aye. Senator Carnley. Senator Chastain. Senator Coleman. Senator Figures. Senator Gavan. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator my left. Senator Melson. Senator Roberts. Senator Sessions. Senator Weaver. Senator Gudger.
Aye. Senator Carnley, that particular bill, what's the number?
11 and 2.
SB 249 has a favorable review, 11 to 2. I do have one comment before we leave tonight. Congratulations. Is that we have a second Fred committee meeting tomorrow morning at 8:45. Part of that is Senator Singleton wanted us to pull up a bill with Senator Roberts. I think Senator Roberts has an issue in the morning with another committee, so he might not be here. Is that correct, Senator Roberts? All right, but if you can, 8:45 right here tomorrow, we're hoping to get in and out. It won't be like today, an hour and a half, so please forgive me for the long meeting. Senator Hatcher?
Senator Roberts, is that veteran and military? Are we 8:45? Oh.
Thank you for taking the time to be here and just enjoying the long day. So thanks for all you do. We are adjourned. Thank you.